Hello, I'm your host, Giselle Gamby, and this is the Intuitive Pull podcast. First of all, I want to say thank you to the community of listeners because there have been breathtaking ripples that have occurred from listening to this podcast, and I'm excited to be witness of many, many more. This year, I'm dedicating this podcast to the theme of 2023 being a breakthrough year. No matter how successful, fulfilled, and happy we are, and the truth is that sometimes we're not, we all have thresholds we've placed on ourselves on how loving and powerful we've allowed ourselves to be. Following the intuitive pull does not negate our vulnerabilities and our humanness. Oftentimes, following the intuitive pull asks us to see our blind spots and to bring what has been in the shadow to light. And when we do, we can see that being fully human is in fact the precursor to remembering that we are infinitely greater than this mortal body, that we are infinitely connected beyond this time and space, not in spite of our humanity, but because of the intricate weaving of all aspects of our precious humanity. When we take responsibility and remember that you have the power to decide what you choose, and we fuse that with a letting go of control and surrendering into the plans that you didn't make, there is nothing that you cannot transform. My wish is that you see that the deeper you go, the greater your wealth in all ways, and that authenticity is always profitable. Have fun! Welcome back, Intuitive Pull community. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a piece of writing that I completed last week. I had tried to sit down at my computer several times to write because I did have the pull to write, but nothing valuable came until last week when I could see the sum of all of my parts of this very private and introspective process that I've been on, not only over the last 3 weeks, as I mentioned on a previous episode, but really since mid last year. And this piece of writing is a piece of writing that for me feels like a breakthrough in itself. It feels of the same quality that it felt when I had a massive, massive breakthrough 10 years ago, and realizing that the last really significant life-changing breakthrough was 10 years ago. It's time for another breakthrough 10 years on. And I know that this is not just for me, but for many of the people that I'm coaching and also for many of the listeners. So I'm going to read this piece of writing to you, and I ask you to use it as an exercise for reflection, even in a meditative state. Certainly as an exercise of presence. So when you're ready, allowing yourself to be here, to have your presence with these words, and to experience its magic. It's entitled 2023, The Breakthrough Year. In the busiest, most joyful, and most profitable year I've had, 2022 also asked me to go on another inward journey. Perhaps asked is the wrong term, as I actually felt like I didn't have a choice. Intuitive pulls and both unexpected and inevitable events had me traverse into territory within my own humanity that I hadn't either seen at all, and if I had, that I hadn't fully acknowledged, felt the feels, and moved through to the other side. What I couldn't understand then was why this was surfacing in a year where I felt happy, I felt on purpose, where grace did the heavy lifting, and where momentum was so abundant. And yet I dug deep again and became aware that there were places in my history that had pushed away and got on with life instead, as we sometimes do. Whilst getting on with life served me as it helped me move past a chaotic and painful time in my late 20s, it was also a double-edged sword. What I hadn't acknowledged became a sleeping tiger, and this had power over me today in ways that are incongruent with my values and who I choose to be. As I owned up to that sleeping tiger and to who I'd been and the choices I'd made way back in my late 20s, absolutely dumbfounded by my lack of backbone and what a waste of life, I saw that the consequence of not having acknowledged this then had placed a threshold on how powerful I allowed myself to be over the next 25 years. I became aware of behaviours that dampened my power. I saw habits and choices made from a half-hearted self-love. And I saw that this threshold had me feeling like my authenticity didn't belong in the world at large, and I sometimes struggled and felt anxious owning it where people didn't naturally get my drift. The elephant in the room revealed itself, a theme of powerlessness that played out in my life today that in fact belonged to my history. The thing is that I had no idea that this theme of powerlessness existed underneath my feelings of happiness and fulfilment, and yet it did, and became a threshold to who I allowed myself to be and to what I allowed in my life. At the same time, at the end of last year, life did not slow down as expectation would have it at the end of the year, and despite 2022 being an absolutely massive year, neither was my tank empty. Like a patchwork quilt, creative ideas emerged with velocity on how I could be of service to more and more people, including the community of the intuitive pool. My worlds collided on several occasions and new projects were birthed. Firstly, the 9-week meditation program that I've spoken about in this podcast and that I've just released week 4's meditation because I was pulled. And there are many more projects to come, which I'm super excited about. I also became supercharged about my relationship with my intuition and the power of being plugged into a higher intelligence, a field of infinite possibility and connection, of the capacity that it gives to see through the eyes of love rather than fear. Intuition had been the most productive, in inverted commas, model I have ever aligned with. It has created more than all the strategies I'd adopted, and very efficiently too. I feel so agitated when I see people believe that outside models will be their saviour. I feel so much angst at the time and energy that's taken when I know from experience that following the intuitive pulls with both feet on the ground creates so much more and so much more instantaneously at times. Whilst I was dealing with powerlessness, I was also feeling on a mission. Where does following the intuitive pull really lead us? It has us remember our infinite power and that we are connected beyond this mortal body, not in spite of our humanity, but because of the intricate weaving of all aspects of our precious humanity. It has us remember that we are all a grand orchestration of love, here to experience ourselves and each other as that. And in doing so, we create breathtaking ripples of love actualized, each through our own unique expressions. As I was becoming aware of this concoction of the thresholds we place on ourselves, and of this mission to remind more and more and more people of our infinite power, I knew deep in my gut that this is a breakthrough year. The last really significant life-changing breakthrough year for me was 2013. 10 years on, And I know without a shadow of a doubt that this is another one. We all have blind spots. To say that we don't is to be dishonest. These blind spots act as thresholds to how powerful we allow ourselves to be. These blind spots create compromised versions of ourselves, and thus compromised versions of life. These blind spots have us feel that our bodies are too slow and dense to hold and realize all our creative ideas. These blind spots create judgment and misunderstanding and separation in relationship not only within ourselves, but with others. These blind spots have us believe that we're never enough despite our best efforts, and then self-doubt, shame, and confusion come to the party. These blind spots have us despair into hopelessness. These blind spots have us make choices from self-denial rather than self-love, and the weight of the world places itself on our shoulders. These blind spots create inconsistency, unreliability, and peaks and troughs. And these blind spots ultimately lead to regret. Sometimes we need a crack of the whip to pay attention, especially when all has been going well, or when we've invested in denial. This crack of the whip isn't because we are powerless, but because we have the power to transform now. This is a year where the things that we haven't dealt with are going to be dealt with absolute clarity. Life changes instantaneously when we shift our perception from victimhood to accepting that what may appear to be a crisis of confidence is in fact the calling card to taking more intuitive risks. This invitation does not exist at the level of mindset. This invitation does not exist at the level of strategy, although that will be its consequence. This invitation exists in our deeper and deeper and deeper relationship with love, in correcting the misperceptions that has had us see through the eyes of self-denial, and that will have us instead fall headfirst into a renewed depth and breadth of our most powerful selves. Multiple streams of joy, impact, and income will be birthed here. A restoration of love will result where judgment and misunderstanding stood. A new creative license will be given by owning our superpowers with more abandon. And a renewed sense of freedom, clarity, and inspiration will come from my new favourite word, the convergence of our missteps, failures, lovelessness, and powerlessness. This is a breakthrough year, and I am inviting you to be present to your own intuitive pulls as you listen to this. If there is a pull, I'm inviting you to be radically generous to yourself and to work with me to end all blind spots. I'm inviting you to surrender into giving yourself the experience of 2023 being your breakthrough year. Whether you have never done any work with me before, we have much work to do, and I promise you that it will not take a lot of time. I've had many comments from clients who have said that one conversation with me shifted more than years of therapy. And if we have worked together before, I'm inviting you to go deeper, to leave no stone unturned. There is a new spiritual curriculum for me to share with you, and if you felt the pull, you are ready to experience its magic. If you feel the pull, you know what to do. Details are in the show notes. Thank you for trusting yourself. Hey guys, if you love this podcast, I have 2 requests. Number 1, sign up to the newsletter, which you can find in the show notes. Sharing is one of my superpowers, and there is only so much that I can share through the medium of podcasting. And I have very big plans this year to be radically generous to you. So sign up to that newsletter where you'll be able to receive a whole lot more that I trust will be super valuable to you. And number 2, I'm a massive referrer of the people I love to the people I love. Please share this episode or podcast with the people you love, and let's create some more breathtaking ripples of impact.